In this episode of Detroit Performs, world-renowned musicians, a new era for Orchestra Hall, and an interdisciplinary visual and performative artist. It's all ahead on this episode of Detroit Performs.
Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by the Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Family Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, the A. Paul and Carol C. Scott Foundation, the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs, the National Endowment for the Arts, the DeRoy Testamentary Foundation, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Detroit Performs. I am your host, DJ Oliver, and I am chilling in my living room as we continue to keep each other safe out there and staying at home. Now, I cannot wait to get out there into the arts scene in person, but for now, we have enough arts in today's show to quench your thirst. Now, our first segment features our producer, Sarah Smith, who caught up with world-renowned musicians Victor Ghannam and Yako Muller. Take a look.
I'm here with world-renowned musician Victor Ghannam, and the musician Victor collaborates a lot with, who is also a world-renowned musician, Yako Muller. Victor and Yako, how are you guys doing?
Great.
Oh, well, thank you.
Wonderful. So Victor, how did you find your passion for music?
Actually, I started playing a guitar at 4 years old, and then my father, who is a music lover, in particular Middle Eastern music, we used to hear it around the house. So he bought me a oud, which is the lute. And I started to play that.
What is the mood or the feeling that the oud evokes that really draws you to that instrument?
In particular, for myself, I love the improvisational aspect that, in our music, Middle Eastern music, you have a lot of improvisations, and the oud, you're basically cradling it. Your whole body feels it. It's kind of like an extension of your emotions, your sweat, and your soul.
When you first started with the oud and getting, more gigs and stuff, how was it? Were you on your own, or did you actually join a band?
It started out, my dad would take me to weddings or parties, and they would throw me up on a stage, and it just evolved from there. I started doing gigs and years of nightclub work. I started working with some of the major singers from the Middle East, and then I got involved with the National Arab Orchestra, which is it's very, very fulfilling because it's so structured, it's so organized, and it's really, they're considering it the premier orchestra outside of the Middle East, which I'm grateful to be a part of.
What is the music that the National Arab Orchestra plays when they get together?
Well, predominantly it's the classical Arabic genre. And, we have some amazing musicians from around the country, some great, amazing singers and vocalists, and we've done collaborations with students. We started out just a small ensemble. Michael Ibrahim, he's the director. We got together, we won a gig, and Michael had a dream. He followed it, pursued it, and it grew, and they've got, it's a nonprofit organization. People donate to it. We've performed in Saudi Arabia and all around the country.
What is it like to be able to bring that music to families that have moved from the Middle East to Metro Detroit, to be able to bring a little bit of part of home to them?
Well, if you see the reactions, they feel like they're back home again, and the smiles on their faces, and our music is a lot of give and take where we feed off the audience, and they're remembering their homelands, and a lot of them, keep in mind, they left a lot of problems in their home countries, and it's just so gratifying that we're able to bring them back the good memories that they used to have with the music.
Other than Middle Eastern music, do you dabble in any other genres?
Oh, I used to play rock and roll, Beatles, Stones, Jimi Hendrix back in the day, electric guitar, and I love jazz. I basically love all kinds of music. And then, fortunately, I was able to meet Yako, and I always loved flamenco when I was younger. And it's so funny how that happened, how we met. Evidently, Yako has an appreciation for the instrument oud. He is a master flamenco guitarist, and he was touring, doing some workshops. He happened to be in Detroit, and there was a mutual friend who was the flamenco dance performer. And I guess he casually asked her, I wish I could find, somebody that plays the oud. And she says, I got just the guy for you. They gave me a call, and we got together while he was in Detroit, and it was magic.
So Yako, what made you want to collaborate with Victor?
When I met Vic, I said, let's jam together. And then after half an hour, we just played, half an hour, we were jamming. And I looked at him and said, Vic, we're going to make a record together, And it's such a beautiful thing, because what I enjoyed most out of it, apart from playing with Vic, I mean, he's like the master of oud, He's such a virtuoso, it's just, I learned so much from the guy. And so thankful for the experience. But apart from that, what I enjoyed also a lot is like seeing all the different people just, at the end, everybody having a good time. It's, what else do you want in life, It's beautiful.
It was magic. I mean, some of the best times of my life were sitting on a stage with that man right there, with Yako.
So what is the music that you collaborated together on?
Well, the first CD was totally flamenco, Viento del Desierto. It was totally Yako's compositions. And the second CD we did was Palace of Dreams.
That last album, we both composed like half of the album each, And like there was one song, which is actually the title track, Palace of Dreams. And I composed that song, but also lyrics actually in 4 different languages. And my goal actually was to bring the whole world together, which I think at the end is the most beautiful thing to do.
Now, let's talk a little bit about just these times right now with the COVID-19 situation. How is music helping both of you kind of handle, staying at home and staying safe?
I'll grab my instruments once in a while. When I grab it, it just seems to help me. I want to escape from all the problems, but just temporarily.
Apart from the old negative things, I believe there's going to be a lot of positive vibes out of this whole thing, because I think people are going to be more aware when there's live music and like a festival or whatever, and people will be more appreciative.
The appreciation will be there. It will come back, hopefully, and make people realize, not just in music, what's the most important thing in life. And even a musician will have a different inspiration after all of this.
What are you looking towards, in the future with your music?
I'd like to collaborate and do some more work with Yako, and I'll get around to composing some more, and I look forward to more performances with the orchestra.
What do you hope that your audience takes from your music?
I just hope they feel that they came along for a ride and felt it to bring themselves to say that, we enjoyed your music, we felt a part of it.
You can learn more about Victor Ghannam and Jacco Muller, as well as all the artists that we feature on DetroitPerforms.org. Up next is our final installment of our Orchestra Hall Centennial Celebration, where we will find out what's currently happening and what's in store for the future.
When I first started working here, this area wasn't developed like it is now. So to be right here in the community and to be a part of it as it's developing and growing, man, it's an amazing thing.
This is our home. Home presents security. Home presents responsibility. And it also helps you with a vision, because when you have a home, you can imagine all kinds of things.
A lot of what this orchestra does currently, my work included, is made possible by this space that we are in, this original historical space and the additional space that we've created. And of course, then the onus is on us to make sure that this space is a space for everybody. And that's where a lot of the work continues.
In the wake of Orchestra Hall's expansion into the Max M. and Marjorie S. Fisher Music Center in 2003, excitement for a new fixture of art and culture on Woodward Avenue was the highest it had been since the building's golden years under the baton of Gabrilovich. However, within just a few years, dark financial skies were on the horizon once again.
Detroit was obviously one of the first cities to be affected by the recession. And when you have to go through those tough times, I think that tradition, it's always there in the back of your mind, because you start worrying about the future and you don't want a tradition to end. And you're trying to figure out everything you can in order to make sure that this can go on.
And I truly believe that in the Great Recession, for example, we had a number of issues that came in front of us, a work stoppage and a settlement of a bank debt, that we almost went out of business. And I would say that if it weren't for Ann Parsons, we would be out of business at this point, quite frankly.
When you face a challenge, the most important thing is not to freeze and not to dig in and go into denial, but to accept it. And that's what we did.
While both the city and the nation teetered on the edge of yet another economic collapse, the challenges in front of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra were made that much graver, considering the fact that they still needed a new maestro.
When we went through those tough times, it seemed like a leader would emerge who was perfectly suited to the time.
Leonard Slatkin came in when it was really dangerous here. But Slatkin proved that it was not too dangerous, because he stepped in and took hold and took through.
When Leonard comes, I think there was an excitement, a world-renowned figure taking over the leadership of the orchestra.
And it turned out to be really the perfect partnership at the perfect moment for us because of Leonard's real community-centric way of leading an orchestra, which was what we were yearning for at that time.
This is not just an orchestra, it's a family. And this is not just a staff, but it's a community.
Leonard plays a really important role when he comes here because it is a very difficult time for the orchestra. You know, we had obviously a major strike here in 2010 and 11. And Leonard, because he was so experienced and such a pro and such a tremendous musician, was a real calming force. And that was very reassuring at a time when not much else was.
When I arrived, everybody knew that the orchestra was in severe financial shape. Despite Maestro Järvi's incredibly successful and much to be lauded tenure, he had been gone for almost 5 years. There was no interaction in the community. And aside from the recordings Maestro Järvi made, there was no real documentation of the orchestra itself. So my goals were to get those things in place.
The webcasts started with the thought, well, why couldn't we be the most accessible orchestra on the planet? So we have broadcasted to over 1 million viewers in over 100 countries. And this broadcast led to a new innovation, which was webcasting educational content to the children in the Detroit school system.
One of the things that I'm really proud of for the Detroit Symphony here in Orchestra Hall is their efforts to really think outside of the box in terms of how to make what we do more relevant to the community around us.
We need to embrace technology if we're going to be successful. I think that that's been seen for all of time with this organization. And technology is a way of connecting people at a higher and better level all the time.
It's a way to get the message and, to some degree, the sound of the orchestra to a broader public other than the 1,700 or so people that come to attend a concert in the hall. Now you're reaching out. You go out in the community, you play concerts in the community, you're reaching out to them. And with the webcasts, people can now put faces to the individuals who are on stage.
To have this outreach, to be able to touch the next generation, to have that exposure, it really goes a long way in creating a rich community.
When the Cube opened and started hosting, poetry slams and jazz programs that were going on the same time that we would be playing a Tchaikovsky concert, and it's really nice to see that fusion happening.
This building is a hive of activity, more so today than it has ever been. The orchestra in this building have a greater chance than they've ever had of fulfilling the prophecy from 1919 that this would become the center of musical culture in Detroit.
It's a community effort. That's the main thing. We cannot sit here by ourselves and imagine our way to an inclusive space. We need to be connected to people. We need to hear from people. We need to be talking to people. And most importantly, we need people in this space so that we can know if it is working.
Today, a century since its hasty construction, Orchestra Hall still provides that looking glass for the city of Detroit. It reminds us of where we have been, of what we have overcome, and it provides the inspiration and solace we sometimes still need to know that even when it seems like our best days are behind us, there may indeed be an even brighter future ahead.
I think Detroit and the Detroit Symphony Orchestra and Orchestra Hall all have stories of resiliency.
To me, it's a very Detroit story, and it in many ways captures the best of Detroit.
I've always kind of felt that it was kind of the center of musical life in the city, because it represents a certain kind of ideal, a certain kind of timelessness of great music. It's Orchestra Hall. It's going to be here. That is as constant as it can get.
It's inspiring for concert goers to see that there's a building that's still standing at 100 years. I think that gives everyone a sense of hope of the future and of classical music and of just culture in general.
When you see the faces in our civic youth ensemble, not just the players on the stage, but the audience of children who are mouths wide open, thinking, I can do this, gives them an inspiring vision for what they can be. It's incredibly important.
The fact is that we have an obligation to continue the transformation of Detroit so that people choose to live, work, play, and raise their children here. And this institution and Orchestra Hall will always be a centerpiece of that.
Detroit is a city that continually reinvents itself. They talk about it boom and bust. But what a wonderfully resilient city it is. And the only thing that we can hope to equal is the quality of Orchestra Hall and the stark, wonderful silence that draws people here hungry for a sound that they would hear nowhere else.
Now let's check out some upcoming events coming to you virtually from around the D. Next up, interdisciplinary Lebanese-American visual and performative artist Bana Kabalan. Let's listen in.
I'm here with visual and performative artist Bana Kabalan. Bana, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So, where did you grow up? And can you tell us just how did you use your creative side to express your thoughts about the world around you?
So I grew up in Metro Detroit. I'm Lebanese-American, first generation. And my parents wanted me to mainly do the science route. And at the high school that I was in, we could use an elective for art. And so I did that and then found myself really loving both biology and art. Being Lebanese-American, being first generation, whenever I was in the US growing up, I didn't feel super American. I always felt like there was this disconnect. And then when I do go to the Middle East, I always don't feel Arabic enough. Well, where am I? There's not really this middle ground. And so I found that what for me to do and for me to feel this sense of home was to really just create it myself and to embellish it and decorate it myself and use aspects of things that I like and things that inspire me. And I found that really working with Arabic elements, Arabic motifs and things like that really added to it. And then using this natural elements also was what made me feel like I had more of a deeper understanding of myself. Because I also study ecology, I'm constantly looking around, questioning, making different questions and hypotheses about why things are occurring in different habitats and ecosystems. And so in the same way of exploring as an artist, I'm looking around thinking, well, what can I collect here? What is this habitat have for me to make and incorporate into my artwork? So it's this curiosity of nature that really drives me with both my practice in science and then also my art practice.
And then, so can you just delve a little bit more into what your art medium is and why do you choose to express yourself in those ways? Because it's very sculptural, but also something that you can wear, which is really neat.
I really was fascinated with just creating spaces and installations that you could go into, like creating this otherworldly experience and then kind of forget about the outside world, just this kind of safe space area. And so I started off doing those installations and then thought, well, why not go further and wear them and perform in them and create these different organisms and things like that that you could embody. My creative process is, first what I do is I collect a bunch of stuff, lay them out, and just usually make a mold. I get wire that I usually find to just create the structure of the piece, and then just start attaching things, see what types of shapes morph out of it. I typically like the pieces to just be something that evolves as I'm working on it. I want people to feel comfortable when they're in the spaces that I create or in the performances that I have. It removes oneself from whatever space they're in or whatever dynamic they're in currently and then puts them in a new place. And I think that that's what the purpose of my artwork always was for me, to just have these like areas of feeling comfortable when dealing with childhood trauma, dealing with other aspects of my life that was negative. What I find solace in is just creating this world around me, and I really want other people to experience that.
What do you think an artist's responsibility is in creating social change?
Specifically for me, I choose to talk about experiences that I have being a child of immigrants, my parents, immigrants from Lebanon. So incorporating this dynamic of like the bridge between in the East like that. So I also incorporate my environmental issues that I think are very important. So I think that as artists, to express oneself in the lives that they have and the experiences they have is important. With the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, it's, I think, important to have their voices heard. I think it's really important to collaborate with these artists, represent them, mention them, have the community learn more about their experiences.
And then just looking ahead, what does the future look like for you?
I definitely want to keep going with ecology. I really hope that the more things that I learn with my research, the more will incorporate and really enhance my artwork. And it will be this like feedback loop of what I'm learning from both practices.
And that wraps it up for this edition of Detroit Performs. As always, for more arts and culture, head to DetroitPerforms.org, where you'll find featured videos, blogs, and information on upcoming arts events. Also, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And make sure you guys are staying safe out there. And we will continue to bring you the best of Detroit's art scene. Until next time, get out there and show the world how Detroit performs, y'all. I'm DJ Oliver. Thanks for watching, guys.
Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by the Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Family Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, the A. Paul and Carol C. Scott Foundation, the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs, the National Endowment for the Arts, the DeRoy Testamentary Foundation, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.